People like you don't belong here. Just vanish, my boss sneered at me. Mary always had a cruel remark ready whenever our paths crossed. But today, I'd had enough. I forced a smile and responded, "Incompetent people should be let go, right?" "Exactly, you're finally catching on," he shot back. Mary, sensing something was off, hesitated but quickly dismissed it, assuming I was finally bowing to her authority. She smirked, her arrogance rearing its ugly head. What she didn't know was that tomorrow, at the shareholder meeting, the tables would turn, and Mary would be the one begging for mercy. My name is James Smith, a 41-year-old salaried employee. I grew up with a comfortable life, but everything changed when my father suddenly passed away from a stroke just before I graduated high school. Losing him left my mother and me in a difficult situation. With no work experience, my mother struggled, and I was on the brink of college entrance exams. I also had a younger brother who was much more academically gifted, and our father had high hopes for him. Believing that he deserved the opportunity more, I chose to forego college and start working. I picked up a part-time job nearby and, over the years, transitioned to a full-time role. The company I work for isn't a big name with flashy paychecks, but it has a warm, supportive atmosphere. Despite only having a high school diploma, I was welcomed with open arms. Many colleagues, inspired by our president, John Williams, generously shared their knowledge and advice. President Williams had faced similar struggles in his youth. He had also given up on college due to family circumstances, opting instead to start the company with a close friend. Several employees like me had only high school or even middle school diplomas. President Williams always looked out for us, inviting us to meals and awarding generous bonuses. His caring nature earned him the respect and loyalty of everyone at the company. But that supportive atmosphere began to unravel when Mary Johnson joined as a department head, chosen for her exceptional talent. Mary came from a wealthy background and had attended elite schools. She flaunted her expensive accessories and constantly bragged about her possessions. Her work attitude was just as appalling. She looked down on employees without prestigious degrees, treating those with only high school or middle school diplomas like mere servants. Her comments made it painfully clear she saw us as beneath her, leading to her being avoided by most of the staff. Mary seemed to have a particular dislike for me and never missed an opportunity to make snide remarks whenever we crossed paths. "So just a high school diploma? I don't need useless people like you on my team," she would sneer. Hearing this day in and day out wore me down. One day, I mustered the courage to ask her why she treated me so poorly. Her response was as shocking as it was cruel. "Poor people with only a high school diploma are unpleasant to look at. I don't want you anywhere near me." It seemed Mary genuinely felt that way, as she never assigned me meaningful work, only menial tasks that seemed beneath my position. Just yesterday, she handed me a broom and a rag, instructing me to clean a storage room filled with old, forgotten items. "This room might be useful someday. If you clean it now, it'll be nice and tidy when we need it. Even a useless high school grad like you can manage this," she said with a sneer. I tried to explain that I was swamped with more pressing tasks, but Mary wasn't interested in hearing it. "Maybe someone else who's free could take care of it, or we could handle it during the year-end cleaning," I suggested, bowing my head to avoid further conflict. Mary was livid. "Are you refusing an order from your superior? You need to start over from scratch," she snapped, shoving the broom and rag into my hands and standing over me like a warden. Left with no choice, I began cleaning. After about 10 minutes, Mary grew bored and said, "Next time, do what you're told immediately. I'll let you off the hook for today." Finally, I was able to return to my actual work, but that turned out to be a mistake. A few hours later, Mary barged in, yelling, "Why did you stop halfway? Don't you have any sense of responsibility?" I bit back my frustration and listened in silence, leaving me mentally and physically drained. Everyone in the office wondered how Mary had managed to secure a position as department head. During her interview, she had skillfully portrayed herself as a cheerful and kind delight, easily fooling the interviewers. Her impressive track record from her previous job had earned her the role here, along with a glowing reputation in business management. When she first joined us, she made a great impression on the president and other executives, always smiling and taking initiative at meetings. It was hard to reconcile that image with the person I had come to know. When Mary first joined our office, she was the epitome of professionalism. Introducing herself as Johnson, the new department head, she expressed enthusiasm about working with us. We had high expectations for her, but as time went on, her true nature began to surface. She morphed into a tyrant, frequently flattering the higher-ups while treating her subordinates with disdain. Her behavior created discontent among the staff, and some began hoping for a new department head. The office atmosphere grew increasingly tense, exacerbated by recent thefts of employees' money and belongings. Despite our efforts to enforce locker use and remind everyone not to leave personal items unattended, I was determined to catch the thief. Then, a major incident occurred. One day, just as I was about to leave for lunch, Mary stormed over to my desk, slamming a document down with force. "Don't think you can just walk out for lunch. What are you going to do about this?" she demanded, thrusting an email and a client complaint in front of me. The email read, "Your products are of the worst quality, frequently damaged and overpriced. We are terminating future business." I was taken aback. Mary accused me of sending the email, but I had no recollection of it. I pointed out that the email wasn't even from my address. Despite my explanation, Mary was relentless, refusing to accept any excuses. "Everyone else handling this client is a college graduate. Only someone like you would send such an offensive message," Mary sneered, branding me as a liability to the company. Her accusations and insults pushed me to my breaking point. Instead of retreating, I decided to use all my power to teach her a lesson. With a forced smile, I said, "Useless people should be fired, right?" Mary seemed to sense something was off but assumed I had simply accepted her opinion. She quickly reverted to her arrogant self, sneering at me. From then on, Mary's remarks became increasingly derogatory. Comments like, "It's refreshing not to have a nuisance around," and "I'm glad to be free from babysitting an incompetent employee," became routine. Her cluelessness was almost comical. The following day was the company's shareholder meeting. When I arrived at the venue, Mary spotted me and confronted me angrily. "Why is someone like you here? This meeting is for insiders only." I calmly explained that I had been instructed to attend, but Mary, ignoring my explanation, began pushing me towards the exit. "Get out before you disturb the president," she barked. I was at a loss, unsure of how to stay when being physically pushed out. Just as the shareholder meeting was about to start, the president arrived. Mary interrupted my explanation with a forced smile and addressed him. "This is James Smith. He was trying to attend the meeting without knowing his place. I was just sending him away." The president's expression darkened. "What are you talking about?" He turned to me. "Smith here holds 90% of the company's shares as a special controlling shareholder. Of course he has to attend the shareholder meeting." Mary's face drained of color as she stared at me in shock. When I gave a slow nod, she let out a short, terrified scream and collapsed to the floor. In reality, I own 90% of the shares in the company where I work. A shareholder with over 90% of the shares is classified as a special controlling shareholder, holding significant power, including the right to force other shareholders to sell their shares through a board resolution. While this information was known to employees at the managerial level and above, Mary was completely unaware. Mary had quickly made herself unpopular by acting superior from the moment she joined the company. No one had felt the need to inform her of the company's internal dynamics. The idea of someone owning 90% of a company's shares seemed almost unimaginable. Most people hold only a few shares, and even holding more than 50% is rare. Mary sat on the floor, mumbling incoherently, clearly overwhelmed. The president, seeing her distress, began to clarify the situation. This company was originally founded by my father, who was its president. However, he passed away suddenly from a stroke while I was still in high school. His best friend, the vice president at the time, took over as president and arranged for me to join the company immediately after I graduated high school. There were discussions about making me president right away, but it was decided that I should first gain experience to prevent any risks to the company and its employees due to my inexperience. As a result, I inherited 90% of the company's shares from my father and worked alongside the president to learn management skills. My younger brother, who graduated from college, now serves as the executive vice president. Mary struggled to get up, mumbling incoherently. "It seems you weren't paying attention. I just assumed he was an incompetent, low-educated person." Her shock at my true identity was palpable. She inadvertently revealed her disdain, and the president wasted no time reprimanding her. Watch your language. A person's worth is not determined by their educational background. But it's wrong for Smith to hold 90% of the shares, Mary argued, refusing to reflect on her actions. It's only because he's the son of the former president. I contribute more to the company and am much more competent, judged by ability. I was taken aback by her arrogance. The president seemed equally stunned, letting out a deep sigh before responding in a low, controlled voice. Smith is far more competent than you. He listens to employees' needs, continuously improves operations, and enhances workplace morale. I do that too, Mary protested, trying to rival me but only making the president's frustration grow. Don't be absurd. Do you think I'm unaware? I've received reports about your harassment of other employees instead of fostering a positive environment. The president's tone hardened. You present a facade of professionalism to me and upper management, but I've been informed of your deplorable treatment of subordinates, belittling people based on their education, assigning pointless tasks, and disrupting their work that was intended to develop their skills. Mary continued to offer weak excuses, but the president remained unmoved. Enough. You don't need to say anything more. You're neither an executive nor a shareholder, so you have no business at the shareholder meeting. I've already sent an email about this. What? I thought it was a mistake. I'm an extremely competent employee, right? I figured the president must have made an error in the recipient list. I was eager to attend today. Mary's audacity in assuming the president had made a mistake and showing up at the meeting was astounding. The president let out a deep sigh and turned his back on her. Regardless, you weren't invited. I'll call you in tomorrow to discuss this. For now, go home. But I'm a highly valued department head. I'm essential for the shareholder meeting. Mary protested, unwilling to accept her dismissal. The president's expression hardened as he firmly instructed her to leave, and she finally retreated. I watched the scene unfold in stunned silence. The president, who was usually gentle and treated employees like family, had never shown such intense anger. This incident clearly struck a nerve with him. After the shareholder meeting ended without any further disruptions, I prepared to head home. The day had been exhausting, with Mary's interference and the president's frustration, and I was looking forward to relaxing. Little did I know, another surprise awaited me. As I made my way to the taxi stand, I heard hurried footsteps approaching from behind. I turned around to see Mary sprinting toward me. She caught up and positioned herself in front of me, blocking my path. Out of breath but wearing an unnerving grin, she said, "Oh good, I made it in time." "Why are you still here? I thought you had left already," I asked, puzzled. Had she been waiting outside until the meeting concluded? Mary ignored my confusion and started speaking with an unsettling smile. "The president mentioned he would call me in tomorrow, but I have a bad feeling about it. I thought I'd ask a favor from you, Mr. Smith." "A favor?" I was immediately wary, and my unease must have been evident. Mary then suddenly bowed deeply. "I'm sorry for everything I've said and done. I'm apologizing now, so could you please put in a good word for me with the president?" Mary pleaded. "You're not apologizing out of genuine remorse. You're just trying to avoid consequences." "I refuse," I firmly replied. I attempted to walk away, but Mary spread her arms wide, blocking my path. She continued to bow repeatedly while holding her arms up in a bizarre, almost theatrical manner, drawing unwanted attention from passersby. The busy street meant the stares were unavoidable, and when children started giggling at her antics, Mary seemed to realize how humiliating she looked. "Anyway, make sure to support me tomorrow. I'm your boss, remember?" she shouted as she ran off, tripping spectacularly in her haste and attracting even more attention. I pretended not to notice and quietly left. The next day at work, Mary, her leg wrapped in a bandage, approached me. "I injured myself after falling yesterday. I scraped my leg and got bruises. It was terrible." "Is that so? What a misfortune," I responded coldly. Normally, I might have expressed sympathy, but given her previous behavior, I felt none. More importantly, didn't the president have something to discuss with you? "Right," Mary said, her tone shifting. I was instructed to go to the president's office as soon as I arrived. Since I was also summoned, I reluctantly accompanied her. Mary continued to complain about her foot pain, dragging her feet and walking slowly, which only added to my frustration. Throughout this, she made no attempt to apologize. reinforcing my decision not to forgive her. When we knocked and entered the president's office, we were met with his sternest expression yet. Mary, noticing his demeanor, straightened up as if her complaints from the previous day had never happened. "Good morning, Mr. President. What can I do for you today?" Mary said with a practiced politeness, though the president's cold gaze betrayed his awareness of her true nature. "It's too late to try and fix your attitude. Your punishment has already been decided." "What do you mean by punishment?" Mary's face turned ashen, but the president continued without a hint of hesitation. "You are being dismissed for misconduct. We no longer need you at this company. You mean I'm fired? This punishment is too severe." Mary protested, trying to move closer to the president but faltering due to the pain in her injured leg. The president remained calm and unyielding as he continued. "First, your dismissal is due to your harassment of subordinates." "I haven't harassed anyone. I admit I've been strict, but it was for their own development." Mary, with me as a witness, boldly denied the accusations. The president's expression hardened as he produced a voice recorder. "This recorder has evidence of your abusive remarks." "When did you?" Mary's eyes widened in shock as the president pressed play. Her own harsh comments about education and job positions echoed in the room, making not only the president and me but also Mary herself turn pale. "Did I really say all that?" Mary stammered, clearly distressed. "Every day, we had to endure your abuse. Can you understand the pain and frustration you've caused?" I asked. Mary's composure began to falter. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice trembling. It was the first genuine apology I had ever heard from her, but it was far too late to undo her transgressions. "The second reason for your dismissal is your misconduct involving our clients. Just ask Harris Smith." The president then produced a document outlining the email incident from the day before the shareholder meeting. "An investigation revealed that the email was sent from your computer. Do you have any explanation for this?" "I'm sorry, I wrote that email." Faced with the undeniable evidence from the computer investigation, Mary finally admitted her guilt. She, who had stubbornly denied her actions, now began to explain her persistent harassment of me. "I worked hard to graduate from an elite university and struggled to become a department head. Yet Smith, with just a high school diploma, was well liked by the other employees. It made me furious, so I thought I'd intimidate him a little. It was meant to be a prank. I didn't intend any real harm." Her selfish justification made the president's shoulders slump in frustration. "Stop making childish excuses. And what about the third reason for your dismissal?" The president then presented footage from the office's security cameras. The video clearly showed Mary sneaking around and searching for valuables. Mary's face went white as she fixated on the screen. Her previous show of remorse evaporated, replaced by a nervous sweat as she anxiously questioned the president. "But I checked all the security camera angles. I shouldn't be visible." "We recently installed additional cameras due to thefts of employees' wallets and personal belongings," the president said. "Even as a department head, you resorted to theft. What were you thinking?" Chastised, Mary crumpled to the floor, her strength fading. She bowed her head and began to sob, but eventually confessed the full truth. "The truth is, I bought too many luxury items and went into debt. With the repayment deadline approaching and my parents refusing to help, I resorted to stealing from the employees. I was shocked to learn that Mary had been buying luxury items on credit, unable to repay her debts with her salary, and had been abandoned by her family, leaving her in a desperate situation." "Why didn't you just sell the luxury items?" I asked quietly. Mary broke down in tears. "I did try to sell them, but they were deemed out of fashion or had scratches, so they didn't fetch much." I had initially hesitated to dismiss her, hoping there might be a valid reason behind her actions. However, after reviewing the evidence from the voice recorder and security cameras, it became clear that her reasons were trivial and her behavior far worse than I had imagined. I'm relieved that I consulted the president and we reached the right decision. "Mary, you need to reflect deeply on your actions and make amends." As I delivered my final words, she sobbed and apologized, but I couldn't take her words at face value until she truly faced the consequences of her actions. Subsequently, we involved the police, and Mary ended up with a criminal record. A thorough investigation revealed that she had also stolen from donation boxes at temples and shrines, which led to her imprisonment. I hope she uses this time to genuinely reflect on her actions and make amends for her crimes. Meanwhile, I spent my final year training as Mr. Williams' secretary before stepping into the role of president. Moving forward, I am committed to valuing employee performance over educational background and creating a supportive workplace. My brother, who was the executive vice president, has now become the vice president and continues to be an invaluable right-hand man. His dedication motivates me to strive for excellence. I look forward to working with my team to nurture both the company and its employees.